Good evening. I'm Lisa Picker with Carroll County Public Library. It's my pleasure to welcome you to tonight's program. Whitney Gardner is an author, illustrator, and cartoonist living by the Salish Sea with her husband and two pugs. She started drawing stick figures in the second grade, and somehow no one's been able to stop her. If there's ever a moment when she isn't drawing, she's likely to be found baking, tending to her many houseplants, or rolling 20-cent dice. Her favorite color is and always will be yellow. She is the author of the YA novels Your Welcome Universe and Chaotic Good, as well as the creator of Fake Blood and Long Distance, and the illustrator for Debbie Levy's Becoming RBG. Whitney will be interviewed by Stephanie Cooke, a writer and editor. She is based out of Toronto, where she lives with her snuggly cat that she is very allergic to. I understand. I, too, am a silent sufferer. Stephanie is the writer of ParaNorthern and the co-writer of Oh My Gods. Follow her on Instagram and Twitter at Hello Cookie. Write any questions or comments you have for Whitney or Stephanie in the comments section, and we'll get to as many as we can at the end of tonight's program. You can check out their books, of course, at the library, but you can also purchase their books and, of course, their latest, Whitney's latest, Long Distance, from a Likely Story bookstore. Please join me in welcoming Whitney and Stephanie.
Hello.
Hi. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. This is all very exciting. So Stephanie and I were trying to figure out what we wanted to talk about in terms of our books, or, what we wanted to be in conversation about. And we thought that it might be more fun, or it would be fun, to play a little game of literary Would You Rather.
Yes.
And I think that would be pretty exciting or interesting for people to hear the answers to some of these fun questions. I think, okay, I'm going to kick it off, Steph, okay?
Okay. I'm excited. I'm excited to see some of your answers, too, for these. So,
all right. So, would you rather live in a library or a bookstore?
ooh, this is a really good one to start out with. I'm going to say library, though. There's, in theory, I'm thinking of like the Toronto Reference Library, which is here, which is like floors and floors and floors, and they have like every book that's ever existed, So it's like all the possibilities. So I'm gonna say library. What about you, Whitney?
Yeah, I feel like library is definitely the way to go, because I first of all, you're right. Your options would be infinitely more, right? Like you'd have like reference books if you got bored with fiction, like so many things. And yes, bookstores do have all these sections, but I feel like they have a lot of repeat copies because they're trying to sell them. So maybe instead of 5 copies of Fault in Our Stars or whatever, you'd get more variety.
Yes. On the other side, though, I will just play the bookstore angle for a second and say bookstore cats and pets.
True.
That is also a strong reason for bookstore, but I'm also, as I said,
coffee shop attached to the bookstore.
Ooh, see, again, the reference library totally does have like page and panel. Yeah, so the reference library has a cafe chain called Balzac's, which is here, which is a sad name. But they have a coffee chain, and they also have a comic bookstore attached, which is my local bookstore. So
that's
it's like amazing. The best of both worlds, really. Like I get everything in one. Specifically, if I choose this.
I mean, that's a great library. I think I went to a library in Halifax once, and it blew my mind. It was brand new and gorgeous, and
yeah,
I would live there.
Right? They also have like the I'm now just spouting facts about the library, but they have a really cool thing where they have a nuclear vault, and they put like books in it that they feel would be like worthy. Good to have in the case of a horrific world-ending event, and that way if somebody opened it up afterwards, they'd have all of these records of people's literature and stories and stuff.
Well, there is an author goal if I ever heard one in my life.
Right? Nuclear vault.
Somehow a library always seems to end up in my graphic novels. There's one in Fake Blood. There's one in the RBG book. There's one in the Seattle Public Library is in Long Distance. And I don't know why. They're the hardest things to draw. You have to draw thousands of books. I don't know why I keep putting them into my stories, but you can't. You can't have a story without a library.
Libraries are so close to my heart. There's no libraries in ParaNorthern, but there is a library in Oh My God. So
there you go.
I don't know. They're just close to my heart. So
they're important.
Okay.
All right.
I'm going to do the next one here. So
sure, why not?
Would you rather have the book's ending spoiled or never ever know what happened?
See, like, I feel like if I know that I'm about to read a book, I don't want to be spoiled. But I have had endings to movies and books and things spoiled to me that I've gone on to enjoy, despite it being spoiled for me. I can't imagine what it would feel like to read a mystery novel and then have it just end, and I never, ever, ever get to know. That would bug me.
That's what fan fiction is for, I guess, right?
I
you
guess
could like
you're
write
right.
your own ending.
Is that what you would do? What would you do?
I don't know. I do a bad thing sometimes. Like I do this with TV shows more, but like if a show is a big investment, like it's an hour long and it's like somehow 22 episodes, I'm like, is this first season like satisfying? Do I want to get into it? So like I've started this bad thing where I spoil myself like what happens to see if it's worth it. I wouldn't recommend doing this. I just have ADHD, so like my attention span is short. So I think I technically already do the spoiling thing. So
you're fine.
Yeah, like I spoil myself. Although I think like if somebody were to spoil it for me without like, you know, like me asking them to spoil it, I think I would be really upset. I'd be like, oh, why? Like I'd be so mad. But
I feel like there are just a few pieces of like culture or cinema or books that you're just like, oh, I didn't want to know. Oh no. But in my mind, I try and tell myself it's more about the journey and less about the destination.
Yeah, it's fun seeing like the inner workings of things. Like you and I talk about heist stuff a lot in our like podcast. Yes. And like it's fun to see. It's not necessarily the end like result of it. It's kind of what they do up to that point and like how they kind of complete it that makes it interesting rather than and then they lived happily ever after or they got caught and all went to jail.
Exactly. All right, let's see what's next. What else do we got on this? Oh,
got cat hair everywhere.
Would you rather have a friend write a best-selling series where the villain is based on you, or have your parent publish a memoir about all your most embarrassing childhood stories?
Oh God. On one hand, I think it would be very cool to be a villain, like in a story and stuff, but it's like, how much would it be like drawn on who you are versus like embellished, you know? The story thing, I feel like I live regular. Like every time I see my mom, like she does something like this very publicly. So I feel like I live a degree of the latter part of that regularly, and it's mortifying. So like I like die inside, like I shrivel up. I'm just like, so I think, you know, knowing that about myself already, the villain sounds more appealing. But hopefully it's not like it's just inspired by.
Right. So my hope would be that if I went with this villain idea is that I could be like, I don't know what you're talking about. That's not me. If it's real bad, there might be some deniability there that only I would have to live with knowing that I am the villain in this book. Whereas if it were a book by my mom, there's no running and hiding from that.
That's a good point. I did not think of that. Oh boy.
Let's not give
Yeah.
our moms any ideas.
Yeah. I feel like that's like danger zone. Like I feel like she already goes to like bookstores and like dramatically like announces who she is to like bookstore people now.
Oh
And then like
no.
tells stories. So do not listen to this podcast, Mom. Or if you have already, forget it. All right. Would you rather accidentally drop your favorite book into the toilet or a wood chipper?
Ooh, well, wood chipper would mean you're never getting that book back again unless you're real bored. Toilet is also pretty disgusting now that I think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, you could save it, you could salvage it, you could do that thing where you spread out the pages, but it is toilet water.
Yes.
Is there any getting that out?
Yeah. Is there any like forgetting that too? Like it's just like, oh, this hasn't been in the toilet. You know, like people like to sniff books and
oh no.
it's just like now it's just toilet paper. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. My cat, like there's like cat hair everywhere.
Okay.
But yeah, like it's just like imagine somebody coming over and be like, I love that new book spell. And you're just like, oh god, don't do that.
It's not a new book anymore.
God.
Then maybe wood chipper is like, oh, could go back to the earth, I suppose.
Yeah. I like that in a way, but like, okay, so one of my pet peeves, I wouldn't necessarily mind buying the book again. You're supporting an author again. You know, you're like, as authors, we love that. We love the support. But like my pet peeve is when I have like a favorite cover of the book and like that's no longer the cover for the book.
Yeah.
Or it says like now a Netflix adaptation, or it has like a Netflix cover or a movie cover on it instead. I hate that. Like,
yeah,
I
not
hate
a fan.
that. So like if that happened, I would have to go like secondhand bookstore shopping to find a copy not like that. Cause like that's like the level of neurotic I am. So that was a long-winded response for this, but
I agree. I'm trying to come up with like in my mind, I was like, oh, would you rather have your book turned into a movie, but you have to have one of those movie covers with a giant seal on it?
Yeah. I feel like it's inevitable if your book or like graphic novel gets turned into a movie or TV show. Like they want to do that tie-in, and I totally understand the marketing point of view. Like it makes sense to me. I do not fault marketers and publishing.
Right, of course.
But I just like, for instance, there's a question I think later on about this, but somebody wrecked my original cover of like The Time Traveler's Wife. And I hate the movie cover so much. And yeah, I went on like a big thing to try and find that OG
the one
cover.
With the shoes?
Yeah. So I've got it again now, but I was like very mad at the person who wrecked my original version. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Would you rather read only one genre forever or never repeat the same genre after reading it one time?
I think I could live with one genre forever. Like, I think I'm kind of in that area anyways. Like, I read a lot of like fiction, fantasy sort of stuff. So I think in theory, I would be okay with that. Like, there's definitely genres that don't appeal to me as much. So I think kind of switching genre to genre would be torturous to me in a way. Like, there's appeal in everything, sure. Right. But I think the love of reading comes from getting to read the things that you like relate to and love the most. So I would say the one genre.
Right. I was thinking about it and I'm like, oh, maybe I would switch it up. But after a while, you just run out. I mean,
yeah.
There are a lot of genres, but there are not that many. Not to keep you going reading
like
forever.
Would it be on like a rotation? Like it's like once you run out, then it just like starts all over
loop
again.
Back around, maybe.
Yeah.
But if not, I'm with you. I think that there are some genres that can tell so many different stories within the framework of the genre that like you'd still get a lot of variety.
Yeah. I think, again, even just in like fiction or fantasy, which again I read a lot of, and like YA in middle grade, there's just so much. And I feel so behind on my to be read list that I think I could just sustain myself on that alone without any other new books coming into the works.
Absolutely.
But there's so much to read. Okay, let's see. Ugh, still cat hair everywhere. All right.
Oh no.
I know. Would you rather read only one book a year and remember every single detail, or read 100 books a year and remember nothing?
I remember putting this on the list and thinking that this was a cool question, and now I'm like, oh no, I have to answer this. I guess one book a year and remember everything? Okay. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I feel like I could read 100 books and not remember anything, and that's my life right now.
Yeah.
But getting to remember every detail of a book, you could read like Physician's Desk Reference and become a real smarty pants real quick.
I didn't think of it in like terms of like nonfiction stuff, but like that would be a really neat superpower to have. Just kind of retain literally everything.
Right.
Although I feel like, again, my ADHD-ness would not allow me to focus on that book. Like, I suppose within the limitations of this question, I would, in fact, be able to finish this book. But I'm, like, struggling. Like, I'm like, ooh, that would be neat. But then I'm like, my brain would never allow this. But, like, I think I'm in the same boat as you, where I feel like I already read, like, upwards of that number of books a year and retain very little about it.
Yeah, I don't read 100 books a year, nowhere even close, but it's very hard for me to remember, is this from this book or is this from that book? Or
yeah, I tend to read things in big, like, I read like a prose book regularly. Like I have one pretty much constantly on the go, but then I have days where I just marathon graphic novels and comics that I need to get caught up with.
Right.
And I'll just sit in my chair and I'm just like, this is nice. And in the moment, I love it. And I'm like, wow, so good. Love this. Wow, so good. Love this. And then like a week later, somebody will be like, what was that one like? And I'm like,
I remember loving it.
So I do probably already do this one, unfortunately. But the idea of being a smarty pants would be very fun too.
Yeah. Use it to your advantage, I guess. Okay. Would you rather read a new manuscript by your favorite author and have to tell them you thought it was awful, or read 50 Shades of Grey out loud to your grandparents?
Okay.
Two different kinds of humiliation.
Yeah. I don't think I don't know. I could maybe deliver news. Like I edit comics too. So like I've gotten pretty okay at being like, this is not great, but like polite. Right. So I feel like there's like a way to do that and not be mortified about the whole situation. But then on the other hand, I feel like my grandmother would get a kick out of this. Like
that's all I kept thinking.
Like she's just really like funny, and like I used to tweet about her all the time. I briefly lived with my grandmother, and actually not briefly, really. I lived with her at two separate instances. But like she's just a very over the top human being, and I could see her enjoying this and getting a big kick out of it. And it wouldn't be mortifying. It would just be funny. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So
That's
like
my
for
thought
comedic
too.
value. Yeah. So I
Right?
think it
I'm like,
depends on your grandparents.
nobody said you have to be like serious in your dramatic rereading of 50 Shades of Grey.
Yeah.
It would be very hard, no matter who my favorite author is, to be like, this was terrible. You never want to say that to somebody. And yes, there are like nice ways to phrase it, be like, oh, well, there's this part in the middle where I think, but
Yeah.
oof. I think with enough Irish coffees, my grandma and I would have a riot.
Yeah, same. We'll talk about the rest of it another time. But yeah, like my grandma would probably get a hoot out of this for sure. So it would maybe be mortifying at times because like I have a feeling she would ask me like what certain things are, and then I'd have to like explain stuff.
Oh, yeah,
So
there's
like
that.
that would be like painful in a lot of ways. But for the comedic value, again, it would be probably entertaining more so than mortifying specifically for my Oma and grandma. So,
Right.
yeah. Okay. All right. Would you rather read a book with an annoying cliffhanger or one where your favorite character is killed off?
I'm going to have to go with annoying cliffhanger.
Ooh, really?
Because, well, I guess cliffhanger to me means, or would mean, that there's another book coming, that there is more down the pipe, right? That you would hope that this would get resolved in the future at some point.
Oh my
If your
gosh.
favorite character dies, like that's it, right? Like why bother continuing on?
True. Unless you're in comics, in which case no one is ever dead for good.
Okay, yes, that's very true.
Okay.
Be suspicious of anyone who dies in comic books.
Yes. Yeah. I think so you were like, if it's a cliffhanger, more books are coming. There's this book that I read several years ago, and I was like, it was like my favorite book. I was like, oh my gosh, like this is changing my life. I love this. And I was like 3/4 of the way through, and I started to realize there was like still a lot to resolve, and like nothing had been like wrapped up yet. And I'm like, oh no, is this gonna have like a sequel? Anyways, so the book ended, and like nothing's resolved, and that author has no plans to write the sequel. So that like legit happened to me, and I was like, what? And it was like so painfully good. And then I think maybe the publisher or somebody was like, we think this would be a good, sequel. Like this could be series potential. And it seemed like they did a big swerve, but then they just like never finished the series. Like they didn't do even a sequel or anything. So I don't know what happens.
Oh, that's a bummer. Now I'm trying to think. I'm like, oh, what is there a book that I've read recently with like a cliffhangery ending that made me mad? I've definitely had books where like the surprise twist at the end makes me want to just like chuck the book across the room. But I suppose that's different.
I did chuck this book.
Cliffhanger. No,
I was so mad. I was like, what?
I still feel like I would take a cliffhanger over a favorite character death. I don't like when characters die in books. I don't know. I'm a happy book person. I like fun, goofy books. And when I read these dark books where the characters I like die, I'm like, why did you do this to me?
Yeah. I think that's like mostly the same for me. Like obviously, famously, George R.R. Martin is like known for killing off like everyone. So I think during that phase of time, a certain percentage of readers got used to that sort of thing. It's just like, well, don't get too attached. They're all going to die.
Right. No one's faves are safe.
Yeah. But I think typically, like, I don't know. I think I'd rather have a character die if it forwarded the plot of the story in like a meaningful way. That just makes me sound like a monster who wants a character to die.
No, I think that's a very mature and adult answer. I'm like, I want my favorites to live always. Okay. Would you rather secretly love a book that everyone hates or hate a book that everyone loves?
Ooh. I feel like I don't know. I can't think of any instances where I do this with a book, but I can think of instances where this happens with film for me. Like um like either with like, you know, you hate it, everyone else loves it. Like everyone else saw it first and it was like overhyped. And then you
Sure.
go to watch it and it's not as good as you feel everyone has made it out to be. But then I feel like it's fun to have a book that you love that everyone else hates. Like, I think I would prefer that in a way and just kind of like have this book that it's like a bad movie. Again, I'm comparing it to film, but you kind of just like love to hate it, you know?
Sure.
So I think I prefer the one that everyone else hates, but I love.
I feel like my gut reaction was to agree with you on that one. Like, that's what I first thought. But now I'm thinking, like, oh, it might be more fun not fun, but let everybody have this thing that they love and I can secretly hate it and it's fine. And I can roll my eyes and everyone else can have a good time. That's okay. I feel like I would feel bad if everyone hated a thing and, oh, you know what? That did happen to me with the movie. Everyone hates Chappie and I love it.
I don't remember much about Chappie, but I do remember I was running a trivia. Like I did pub trivia for a really long time. I was like the hostess, and I do remember getting like a prize package for Chappie and like giving things out to people and people being like, "Hey, Chappie!" Like that's really all I remember from it. So yeah, I don't know.
Roger says both all the time. Apparently,
Both?
in the chat. I don't know. So you both love and hate everything all at once? Oh, it's your turn. Sorry.
Oh, okay. I was reading the comments. I was so distracted.
I know. I was like, wait, what's happening?
Okay. Would you rather have a friend who loses your books or one who dog ears them?
Okay. I am putting this out there. I do not care. You can dog ear my books. You can underline in my books. You can write in the margins. You can highlight. In fact, I will enjoy it and embrace it. I love the look of like a well-read book. I have a few books that were like very important to me in high school that I passed around to all my friends. And now I have these books and I tell everyone like underline your favorite parts and I can like flip through and it's like a little diary. It's very cute.
That.
So I feel like dog ear away.
I feel like I've been very precious about my books over the years. And I think like I used to lend a lot of stuff out and be like, oh, this is like my favorite thing. I want you to read it too. But nobody ever did that. Like I had like some people just like straight up lose the books. Some people left them in the rain. I've had people just, you know, like do that. But I think I would rather. So in this context, I would definitely rather have somebody like dog ear the book. But the way you're selling this diary, well-loved book is so nice. And now I want that. Like I want to go back in time and tell people to do that with the books, you know, that I lend them.
But then once a lot of people had participated in reading that book, I got very possessive about it. Like I'd lend it out and I'd be like, look, you want to underline your favorite parts as you read it. But if you don't give me this book back, there will be heck to pay. Because now it's like this thing, this like time capsule. So I became very possessive of certain copies of books in my library.
Yeah, I feel like I get afraid of ruining things, like or like accidentally wrecking it or something. So some of those things become a little like too precious sometimes.
Sure.
So it's finding like that happy medium, I think, between being like, sure, I want you to value and cherish this thing too, but then also don't lose it forever. Let's see. Oh no, it's your turn. It's like looking at things.
Oh, it's my turn. Okay. Would you rather be stuck on an island with no books or stuck in a library full of books in a language you don't understand?
Ooh. On one hand, pre-pandemic, I would have been like, yes, a vacation on an island.
Right?
Perfect. That sounds fabulous. But I think, it still sounds kind of fabulous depending on what the island is. I'm imagining a beautiful tropical one.
Absolutely. Of course.
Right. It doesn't say what the island has to be. But I kind of feel like if you're in a library full of books in a language you don't understand, eventually you would kind of learn those books.
That was my question. I'm like, could you eventually figure it out?
Yeah, like there's picture books and stuff. And I feel like in the way that a lot of people learn English from watching like sitcoms and things like that in English, like couldn't you then in turn learn some things? Maybe not everything, but you would get a decent understanding of what's going on after a while. Like wouldn't there be a dictionary? I guess if it's all in languages that you don't understand.
Well, I think you could probably. I think what you're saying is like we're trying to strategize this now.
Yeah,
like
right?
there would in this library there would probably be picture books for children, which means you might get the A's for apple with the picture of the app, and then you're like, okay, this word is apple.
Yeah.
But now that I think about it, you were saying with the island and the pandemic and all of that in 2020 and 2021, I'm like, do I want to spend my time decoding an entire library's worth of books, or do I want to just chill?
Yeah. But we don't have chill, Whitney.
Oh, gosh. How right you are. I would get on the island for 2 days and be like, this is great. Oh, no, now what? Oh, no. What have I done?
I know. Like, it's nice in theory, but I think the type of person I am, I would go bananas so quickly just with nothing to do,
Mm-hmm.
It would make me bananas. Okay. What's next? This is kind of similar. So would you rather go on a writing retreat in the middle of nowhere with no Wi-Fi, or in your home office, but you're interrupted every so often by friends and family?
Well, one is a very real scenario.
Yeah.
I feel like I would instinctually choose writing in the middle of nowhere with no Wi-Fi, and then like the island, hate it. Because I think having interactions with your pets and your people and your family and your friends really helps inform you or encourage you or make your writing slightly better than if you just trap yourself in a box with no feedback from anyone ever.
Yes.
Plus,
I think
everyone needs a reason to procrastinate.
Yes. Yeah. I feel like every time I'm on Twitter and I'm just actually writing threads and stuff, my friend Bobby always responds to every thread. He's like, get back to writing stuff. He knows I'm procrastinating. And it's so true. There's never been, I think, one instance where he's written that and I have not been procrastinating on a deadline. Yeah, I think this would be harder to choose if it was if they visited every time you started to get in the zone and they visited. I feel like that would kill my soul. I'd be like, ugh. All right, to know where I land. But yeah, my friends and I constantly are like, oh, let's go do a writing retreat. Let's go to the middle of nowhere. Let's buy a commune where it's just a comics commune. That is, a
I
regular
feel like that's
thing.
a discussion that hangs over us every now and again and comes back around. I'm like, oh, let's do it. But then part of me remembers that, like, oh, every time I go and have like a writing retreat with my friends, we will all go with our laptops and every intention of writing a new chapter or whatever. And somehow we spend the whole time talking and not writing.
Yes. That happens. Even like me and my friends, I have a few writer friends in the city, and it's like, since things have opened up again in Toronto, we're like, let's have writing dates. This is going to be so much fun. We can sit on a patio and we do nothing. We do nothing but talk. And like, I'm sure once things are normalized or more normal again, maybe we'll go back to being able to work together. But like, honestly, I just like being around my friends. Like,
Yeah, it's too exciting to see everybody again.
yeah. So, ooh, that's a hard one.
Would you rather forget all your favorite series and discover them all over again? Or remember, oh, we kind of did one like this. Remember all the details of every book you've ever read.
Yeah, I think
That's
I
got to
would
be
want,
an easy one at this point, right?
but like, I think I'd want to forget them and discover them all over again, right?
Oh,
Like,
I agree.
I already don't read, I don't reread a lot. I have like a weird anxiety where like with like pretty much every media, like video games, movies, TV, I hate rewatching stuff because I'm like, there's so many things on my, well, hear me out.
Okay.
So I like rewatching things and I like the idea of revisiting them, but I'm always afraid I won't have enough time to get to everything else that's on my to be consumed list.
You have
So
the reader entertainment FOMO.
yeah, I'm like, I look at like my Goodreads and like the TBR pile there, and then the books that I own, that are like sitting there mocking me, being like, we're just waiting, open us. And then, you look at like your favorites and you're just like, can I justify reading you again? Like, that's maybe taking one of these out. Like, that makes that one less book that I will never read in my lifetime,
Oh,
like, it's
my goodness.
dramatic.
Very dramatic step. This is the no chill.
I know. And it's bad, but I'm trying this year, actually. I've been retraining myself to kind of like be like, enjoy things, like watch stuff you love, and like just don't stress about it. Read what you want to read, watch what you want to watch, and don't put so much pressure on yourself. So like that's a thing I'm working on.
I am like a chronic rewatcher, rereader. I will read the same book 10 times because sometimes I just want to hear it again. Please tell me the story again. Like, I will re-listen to podcasts. I love it. I don't know. Once I find something I really like, I want to experience it over and over. And then I force my friends so I can like relive it through them. So the idea of like getting to forget and getting to relive it again, sign me up. I love it. Although I guess, my poor shelf of books I look at it, I'm like, but are you going to be as good as this thing I know is excellent?
Oh, yeah, that is like the tricky thing. And there's like been a few books that like I've read in like recent months where like they're like, oh, you like this book? This is your next that book. And then you read it and you're like, oh, this isn't what I
right.
thought
You don't want to be disappointed, but you're like, oh, well,
yeah.
kind of.
Yeah. So I totally get that mentality. It's just like hard sometimes because like I want to read so many things. I want to consume so many things. And there's just like not enough time. What I really need in life is like a series of hive-minded clones. And one of them like watches TV constantly. One of them reads books constantly. One of them like, does all this other stuff for me. And we all just share a hive mind and collect that knowledge together. That's what I've thought about this extensively. So
I definitely think I know a few people who would love to have that kind of setup.
Right. And I'm sure the clone system would go terribly wrong. And
this is going to be your next middle grade novel.
Oh my God. It would go the worst. And yeah, but it seems in this moment the best solution to that chronic fear of like, but what about like what's next? So all right, let's see. What do we got here? Oh, this is kind of a good one. Would you rather read a book that is more plot driven or character driven?
I'm going to have to go with plot, I think.
Okay.
As a fan of heist media and graphic novels and comics, you kind of have to like keep things moving.
Mhm.
And so sometimes when I'm reading a book, high fantasy, very flowery, it very character focused, but takes a long time for them to get to the point. And so I feel like I'm too impatient of a person to go with like a fully character driven story. I want there to be like problems to solve and, drama ensues and people having conflicts and how will they get through them and people changing and all of that.
Yes. I think I was like kind of torn before you gave your answer. And now I'm kind of just like in the same boat, I think. I like having characters that I feel strongly about, but I like things moving too. And I know I'm not good at reading stuff that just kind of, again, is like more character focused and there isn't much else going on. I'm like you, like, when's we gonna get to the stuff? Like when reading YA, it's just like, like, why hasn't she found her long lost love? Why hasn't she connected? Like, I definitely think, having heard your explanation, that I think I'm in the same boat.
Right? Like, because sometimes you're just like, just go and have the conversation. We know you need to talk to this person, just go and do it. And then we can see what happens next.
Yeah. And I think like a lot of like good character stuff happens as a byproduct of the plot.
Absolutely.
Right? So like if you're telling a good story, your characters are going to feel like obviously like a part of that and you will get to know them through that. So I think that's definitely more exciting for the reader or for me as a reader or you.
Right. Let's see. We're getting to the end here. Would you rather have a book where anything you write in it becomes true, or have a book that contains all the knowledge in the universe?
Okay. I feel like having a book where anything you write becomes true is like a Midas touch kind of thing. Like it would be
scary.
Right? And like as somebody who writes fantasy and fiction in worlds that are fun, but maybe not necessarily ones I want to live in myself, like it's like, would I want this to become a reality?
Right.
But then, like, if you know everything in the universe, what else is there?
I feel like
besides being a smarty pants,
the survivalist in me wants the book with everything in the universe, like just in case the internet ever disappears. It's okay. I have this book that's Wikipedia, and I now know how to build a house because that's on page 11,000 and whatever. So that is tempting to me. I feel like, having a book where anything I write becomes true. Like, I don't want to mess with that. It's too much power for any one person.
Yeah.
A book with all of the knowledge, you're like, okay, I have this thing, and if I need to know something, I could look it up, and it's here. Me, like, creating a crazy butterfly effect, who knows what, when I write something in this book. Also, if I lose it, what if somebody else got it? What if somebody who I don't trust gets it?
That's true. I feel like the knowledge thing is a safer bet, but like, how big is that book? Is there like a bag of holding that you can put that in? And like, how I have questions about it, but I mean, I think I would go for that too. The other one sounds too much like, what is it? Like a monkey paw? Like,
yeah,
like double-edged sword kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
The universe, the book with all the knowledge, maybe it's like an encyclopedia, maybe it's like a set, maybe you get a room in your house that's just like, go to volume 10.
I like that, like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy style, and it's just like, I want to know this, and they're like, go to.
Right, of course.
Okay. Is it your turn or?
I think it's your turn.
It's
Last
sorry.
one. No, it's okay.
Okay. Would you rather have all the time to read all the books that you want, or the money to buy all the books that you want?
Oh, money for books, but might not have time to read them all. Or have time to read all the books that I would like, but I might not be able to afford every book in the world. I think time.
Yeah.
I feel like I have so many books already on my shelf that I have bought that I have not read. And I think that if I had all the money in the world to keep doing that, I might have a problem.
Yes. I feel
time feels like the safer bet.
Yeah. I think the same for me too. Plus, libraries exist.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure this is like trying to make things a little bit sneaky, like you can only have one or the other. But I'm just gonna like, libraries exist. I can borrow stuff from the library. That's what I do now when I like don't have any money to buy books. It's like, borrow it.
We love a loophole.
Yeah. So I feel like, again, and speaking specifically to my anxiety that I've outlined previously, the time would definitely be the thing.
Yeah, it would be nice to have like a few extra hours dropped into your day.
Yes. Oh, that was fun though. Those were good questions.
Fun. I don't know if we have people who are asking questions anywhere on the internet for us to answer or not.
We do have some questions that came in. We have some that were submitted by readers in advance who knew that they'd have to watch this the next day because they had other, sports ball stuff tonight. From Maddie, we have, what kind of stuff did you write when you were in middle school and what did you read?
Oh, in middle school, I liked the Cam Jansen series, the girl detective who has a photographic memory. I read all of those. And I didn't write a lot in middle school, but I definitely was drawing a lot. Stephanie?
I read a lot of like Tamora Pierce and Diana Wynne Jones, like she did the Christomancy books and like Howl's Moving Castle and stuff. I was big into pretty much exactly what I still read and love. And then I definitely like wrote a little bit with like friends, but it was very like comedy, kind of just nonsensical shenanigans. Like it would kind of be serialized. Like it would be like me and a friend on a road trip, and I'd write a chapter, and then we would go on another road trip, and then I'd write like more of it. And I actually had this until about like 4 years ago, and my apartment got flooded, and it wrecked this thing that I'd had forever. But I definitely just kind of had fun writing silly, whimsical things with my friend.
When I was in the 5th grade, I had a friend who wrote a book about how it was about a family who had a genie live with them and everything that happened after that. And I was convinced she would become a novelist, and she never did. I was very disappointed. I thought for sure if any of us became a creative writer, it would be Amanda.
But there's still time.
There's still time for her. Yeah.
Mine was like about like somebody named Paprika. Like it was like, I don't know, like it was very silly. But anyways.
Yeah. And then Zoe asked, what advice would you give to a high school student who wants to write graphic novels?
Start now. the sooner the better. The more practice you have, the better your comics will be. And make a lot of mini comics, small comics, 28 pages, front to back, instead of jumping right in and trying to start with a graphic novel that's like 200 pages, because that is very daunting. But if you have a bunch that are short and sweet and you can finish them, that sort of gives you, I'd say, more confidence and a boost to know that you can finish a project and start taking bigger chunks.
Mm-hmm. And tell the stories that you love to tell. Like, tell the stories that you didn't see when you were growing up and that you wanted to see. Tell the things that resonate the most to you. Don't focus, like, if your goal is like, how do I become a professional, like, creator? How do I become a professional? The answer is like telling your own stories, because those are the things that resonate the most with other people. Trying to kind of think of your books as commercial properties. Like, how do I make something marketable? Is like, it feels stiff and kind of like not organic, right? So kind of just finding the ideas that you love and can't get away from. Like, they just keep coming back to you, and you're just, it's the cat that came back over and over again. But with your stories, just tell those.
And then from Ty, he asks about how do you work with your illustrators? How do you, as a writer, decide what gets turned into the illustrations in the graphic novel? So he's asking, how do you decide what each panel is really going to be?
So I write and draw. So typically I don't have somebody that I'm like directing. So when I write a script, I kind of leave a lot of room. So when I draw, I can figure it out as I'm drawing. When I have been just the illustrator, like on the Ruth Bader Ginsburg book, she would give me lots of direction, lots of notes saying like, oh, they didn't have seatbelts in this year, or this year is when rolling luggage was invented. So I could get all the little historical details just right. Steph is a writer, and she gets paired with illustrators all the time. Maybe this is a good question for you, Steph.
Yeah, I think it's a funny thing to write comics, because with prose, you're just describing everything that's happening to the reader and hoping that they're able to visualize that. But for comics, you're essentially doing that for the artist so they can actually bring it to life. So you kind of have to have a little bit of like a brain for art, and kind of, you have to be able to kind of visualize what's going to be on the page. So I don't know, like, I really like to outline the story so that I can get a broad sense of everything, and then go in and figure out how to break that down into like smaller chunks. And from there, it's kind of a balance where you want to give details, like what Whitney's artist or writer did. You're the artist. But you want to also leave room so that they can make it their own story too. So you want to make sure you include important stuff that definitely has to be there for the plot to move forward and for the story to make sense. But for everything else, you don't need to dictate that to the artist. Let them have some fun with it. Let them throw in Easter eggs and other fun things into the background. It should be as fun of a process as it can be. Writing can be hard when it's a job, but it can also still be fun and magical. And you want to make sure that that experience transfers to the artist too, and that they have an enjoyable experience. So it's, again, just you practice and you learn, and eventually you get to a place where you can, know what to include and what not. But talk to artists and ask them what they like. And that's, I think, one of the best things to do, is just communicate. If you're going to work with somebody else, make sure to ask them.
And one final question. What are your next projects?
Oh, see, the thing about publishing is sometimes you're not allowed to talk about your next project because the world doesn't know about your next project. But I can say that I'm hard at work on more comics, more graphic novels, and I really, really can't wait to be able to talk about stuff that's not super top secret.
Same. Uh, same, for completely unrelated reasons. I definitely have like a YA book out in a couple of years. It's publishing is wild. It takes a long time for things to get made, and for graphic novels especially. I have a second Oh My Gods out next year, which we're finishing up now. So that's out in April, and yeah, like Whitney said, I wish we could talk about more things, but you can
Hopefully
follow
really
along.
soon.
Yeah, we'll have things to share.
Well, when those next things come out, we'd love to have you back to Carroll County and hopefully in person then. Whitney
Yeah.
and Stephanie, I want to thank you both so much for being with us tonight. It was a wonderful conversation with two writers and two very talented souls. So we really appreciate it. I want to encourage all of those folks at home, if you haven't signed up for the library summer reading program, it's not too late. Please do so. When you complete the program, you get a free book that you get to pick out. So we're really excited about that. And also our friends at A Likely Story Bookstore, don't forget to visit them in downtown Sykesville. It's an adorable shop, and Debbie has all of the latest books, many that are signed and many with book plates. So drop in to see our friends there. And thank you for joining us. Have a wonderful night.
Thank you.
Bye.